Hey, everybody. It is Mike. I'm joined by Neo of Neo Cards and Comics. Neo, Rob, right?
Yeah.
Great to have you on. First time we've ever talked in person. We've had a little DM back and forth occasionally, but good to have you on.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. Yeah. We were talking pre-stream. I was like, wait, we've never actually met in person or talked in person, right? We've just only like exchanged comments and back and forth on Twitter on stuff.
Yeah, I've been a long time watcher of your channel and probably 3+ years. Well, I've been doing this for 4.5 years. So probably around 4 years ago, I started watching your channel. I don't watch everything, of course. I don't think anybody does watch everything of everybody, but you do a really nice balanced job of covering the news, the big stuff that's happening in the hobby.
Yeah, I've kind of pivoted into that niche over the years. And I don't remember when I started watching your stuff. It's been years as well. I don't remember exactly what or how I fell into your vortex. Um, but I've been for sure watching you for at least a handful of years. I mean, we've chatted on Twitter for the last couple of years at minimum.
Yeah, I've kind of pivoted out of the news. I now do it on just on my Sunday. I'll just cover stuff quickly, but I don't have the time to put out a video every single day. Like I don't know if you do every day, but I know Dustin does, and it felt like it was almost like a stressor for me to try to beat you and Dustin to the punch on certain things. And then there were a lot of things that I just didn't care to cover, and it became too much for me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do this. If there's something that is of interest to me, I will cover. I'll put out a video. It might even be 2 or 3 days later. But if people are interested in hearing what I think, then I'll do that. But otherwise, I don't chase the news anymore.
Yeah, the news thing, it is definitely a blessing and a curse because if you could be quick and timely on stuff, it gives you a massive edge in
Yeah.
regards to like the YouTube game of it all.
Right.
It absolutely does. But the curse part of that is when you're not or when you can't be, it's like, hey, where's your video at? You know, you start getting DMs like, hey, have you seen this? How come you don't have a video up on it yet?
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, I'm like, I'm in the middle of like 14 things. Like, give me 10 minutes to get something,
Yeah.
thrown together. But luckily, my process on recording and getting stuff up, like, it's I can get a video up extremely fast. Because I'm doing mostly screen records. I'm not even on camera for 95% of the stuff that I post, other than lives and interviews. And that allows me to be quick. So I sacrifice production value for the speed and the ease of getting something up, and I let the words essentially stand on their own without having a bunch of glitz and glamour. And that has honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I have a very quick back end process, I don't know that I probably would have burned out a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I can totally see that. And I can't stand to not edit my videos. I don't edit the podcasts at all. But my videos, I can't, I have to edit certain things out. Silences, like if I'm looking at my notes, things like that, or clearing my throat, I edit it out. And so it creates a longer form from beginning to end for me.
Yeah, I mean, my videos are not 1000% edit free. Like, there's definitely times where I have to stop and take a breath or grab a drink or cough or sneeze or my phone beeps. So like, I'm making maybe 2 to 3 cuts a video at most.
Hmm.
If I have something like that pop up, I do like a 10 count, and then I can see it in the timeline on the editor really easy. And then I know I need to go in and like listen to the last 10 seconds and the first 10 seconds and see what I need to marry together. But that only takes me, very little time to put that together. But I've
Yeah.
always, when I started doing this, I always said I didn't want to script anything and I'm just going to fire from the hip. And for the most part, that's worked out pretty well over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't script anything. I take notes and I just try to hit on the bullet points that I have. But yeah, I once I scripted one video and I hated it.
The only thing The thing that takes me the longest, which yours is probably the same way, as the Sunday video, because I'm usually, and even my process for that now is fairly clean. But usually the back half of my Sunday video, I'll look at card prices. So I have to put some research into like what I want to look at, and that takes some time. Um, but for most, I'd probably say 90% of the videos that I post, I don't even have notes. It's just I'll have the tabs pulled up
Yeah.
for whatever it is that I need. Excuse me. And in some cases, it might just be one tab and then I just let it rip.
Yeah. My Sunday video takes me up to 2 hours. I don't think it ever takes more than 2 hours unless I have some weird technical issues, but I think I've eliminated those. But yeah, total of about 2 hours every Sunday morning, 90 minutes if I'm really good.
Yeah, mine's probably similar because just because it's a longer video, typically like it takes me like 30 to 35 minutes just to record it because they usually run about a half an hour. But I'm sure you're probably like me. Like I have a dedicated monitor, a browser tab or browser on a window that literally, as the week goes on, I'm just throwing things in an open tab on that browser, and it just sits there all week. And then at the end of the week, I pull it over on Saturday, and then I like click through and like, okay, these are the things as the week went on that I wanted to make sure that I touch on. Then I find anything else that I need to throw in there. That's how I handle it. So then on today, later today, when I record the Sunday video, I'll just slide that whole browser window over. And then I already have all the tabs pulled up from throughout the week. Like something will pop up on Twitter and I'll just like open new tab and then just let it sit there. Like, oh, I want to make sure I hit on this later.
Yeah, that's pretty similar. I do bookmarks. So bookmarks on
Mm.
Twitter, the little bookmark button and Instagram and all over the place really. And then I just go through them all on Sunday morning and pick out which ones I want to cover and in what order,
Yeah.
just to oversimplify it. But let's talk about the news because this week was bonkers. And I think you did a really nice job of covering a lot of it.
Yeah, there's some things that I was thinking this morning when I was getting up. I was like, man, the Sunday video tomorrow is going to be a long one.
Yeah, the Snipe thing is the craziest thing to me, and it feels like every day something new comes out, some new allegation against Probstein, and nothing is very clear. And I haven't watched your video yet, so because I wanted to get your perspective live, but I thought Dan the Card Man did a good one a couple days ago where he was very fair to Probstein, where he said, "I don't believe this was him. I think that this was somebody who hacked in and is trying to make him look bad." But it feels like since then more has come out. What's your take on the Probstein Snipe situation? And maybe actually before you say that, can you explain what has happened briefly with Snipe?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, Probstein, the biggest eBay seller that there was up until this year, and then PSA passed them up for singles at least. Said, "Hey, I'm going on my own." Launch Snipe, and I think he's been working on it for a year plus, at least publicly a year. It's been out there, and probably longer before that. It launched on Monday. It did not go well. There was site crashes, people complaining about getting double charged, auctions ending early, auctions ending late. Basically, like everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. So that was kind of the initial, like, oh God, what the hell has happened here? And it says right on it, it's a beta, so you kind of expect some things to go a little wonky, but I
Sure.
don't know that people expected it to be like as big as a fire that it was. So that was Monday and the Tuesday, and then I don't remember when the E4 Elite Forum thing got posted. Was it might have been Tuesday late or like Wednesday during the day, where some Pokemon users found out that the site potentially was hacked and that user information was potentially leaked. And then as part of that, they were able to get in there and see like users and bid histories. And then it's kind of spiraled in that general direction. And if even part of the stuff in there is true, and once again, no one's confirmed any of this, so who knows? It definitely doesn't look good. And at some point, the narrative is almost just writing itself. Like, I don't even know, even if it's all fake, and it's like you said, maybe he was completely targeted. And that was mentioned in the very before any of this even came out on the Elite forums. Collect did an article, and in that on I think that was posted on Monday. It mentions at the bottom that Rick's like, I think we were like cyber attacked, basically, and that was prior to the Elite forum even getting posted, and we knew all this other stuff. So at least gives a little bit of credence to that. It's messy to say the least. It is very messy.
Yeah, and I saw on Dustin's video that Probstein is blaming the Cloudflare outage. I think that was Tuesday morning, but that was 12 hours after the Snipe issue happened. So I didn't quite buy into that. But I can definitely see a cyber attack. It's just what we have a problem here where Probstein has long been accused of shill bidding and allowing shill bidding. And now on the back end, people have found some potential evidence where it appears, I'm not saying he was, that there were accounts that are tied to him that were in fact, bidding up on items that, in an ideal world, the owner of an auction house would not be bidding on. And there's no evidence yet that it was him. It does appear that it was, because if somebody were to create a some sort of back end cyber attack, they would want it to look like him if that's their goal. But I don't know that we're there yet, right? We can't definitively say who this was.
I agree with you. Like there's way too many unknowns at this point. And at some point we're going to find out something, because if there was a legit cyber attack and things were leaked, like there's certain legal ramifications to that in regards to like you have to notify people. Like
Yeah.
there's certain time frames there, and I think a lot of it depends on what country you're in and where you're at. And I don't necessarily understand the in and outs of it, but I was poking around on the requirements for that because, I don't know, we're probably going to talk about Beckett as well. They potentially had one too. So at some point in time, some formal notification is going to have to happen. And at some point in time, he hasn't really said anything since Monday. At some point in time, he's going to have to say something that went on. I mean, if you had, let's take all the nonsense out of it. Let's just simply say you had a $10,000 card that you were selling through him. Like you're sitting there today going like what's going on with my cards, buddy? Like,
Right.
are these getting sold? Like people may have timed certain things to sell before certain parts of the NFL season or the NBA season. And now like he has a lot, like remove all the nonsense to the side. At minimum, he has left his customers in like big time limbo.
Right. I think no matter what, everybody can agree that this is a very, very bad situation for Rick Probstein, where the auction didn't go well, which fine. But then to have all this happen afterwards is really bad. And now there's rumors that he's emailing consigners saying that he's trying to move to eBay for at least that one auction, if not more, which is very strange that he left eBay and now he's trying to go back. What do you make of that?
Part of that could be, if we want to play devil's advocate and give him the benefit of the doubt, let's say he has all these customer cards that he needs to sell. He knows his website's like whatever's going on with his website is going to take a long time to fix.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wants to get these cards to market for his customers as quickly as possible. Like it could be literally as simple as that he just wants to get these cards out of his hands and sold. And the quickest and easiest way to do it is just to get them on eBay, because whatever happened on Snype is just going to take weeks, months, or whatever to unravel. And he just wants to get this current consignment batch out to take care of his customers. And that honestly just could be a decent chunk of it of, hey, I need to get these sold. Maybe he needs the money. Maybe it's just, I need to take care of the customers that trusted these cards with me. And this is the quickest and most efficient way to do it, is to get them on eBay.
Let's play the yes or no game. Will Snype still exist 2 years from now?
2 years from now?
2 years.
I'm going to say no. I don't know that
Yeah.
it exists next month.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is I wonder if he even tries to get it back up and running. And if he does, maybe he tries for a year or so and then has to shut it down, because this has been a massive, massive hit to the reputation of Probstein. And maybe he goes back to eBay. I'm not sure. But, $1 billion in sales. Right. Right.
That's the other wild card here. If he is actually going back to eBay, is eBay going to accept him? eBay's probably going to want to have a really interesting conversation about, so these forum posts, sir, can you explain some things to us?
Yeah. And, maybe they charge him higher fees. I'm sure that his fees were very low on there before, but now they've got some leverage on him.
Oh, for sure. They have all the power in this situation. Like,
right.
He's probably not going to get as aggressive of consignments as he did, or selling rates as he did before.
Right. What do you think those selling rates were?
I don't know, but I have to imagine they were pretty aggressive given the amount of volume that he was doing.
Right. Like 3
to 5%. I had that, and I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. GemRate ran some custom data for me that I did a video on about a month ago, where it actually, you could see how much each person was selling. And I forget what his was per month. It was like in the maybe 10 to 15 million range. I don't have it handy. But that's monthly sales just in sports cards singles. That's not counting like wax and other stuff that he sold. So when you're talking, let's just call it 10 million a month, and it was probably more than that. Like, that's a lot. I mean, he was the second This year, he was the second biggest sports card seller. PSA passed him up early in the year, but he was still, it was them too, like way above everybody else.
Yeah. So let's move on to PSA since you just mentioned them. Their turnaround times have gone from reportedly 3 months, 65 business days, to now 5 months, 95 business days. What do you make of this?
Well, the devil's in the details on this one, because if you believe them and you could kind of backwards into the math on the blowout forums and on social, the turnaround times actually didn't change. They're just changing the way that they're reporting them. Now, maybe they snuck a few business days in there, but essentially before, the key part about PSA turnaround times is they didn't start until your order was checked in. And a lot of people didn't understand that. So right now it takes a month to check an order in. So you would send the order, say it got delivered December 1st, your clock wouldn't actually start till January 1st. Now they're just building that time in right from the get. So yes, on paper, it went from 65 to 90 days or whatever it went to. But in reality, it's just a more accurate representation of the time that it takes from when your cards are actually delivered and received at the office.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think they probably gave themselves a little extra days in there as well. So maybe they slightly extended out. But generally
Yeah.
speaking, I don't know that they really changed that much. It's just a different way that they're reporting them.
Yeah. I largely agree. But if they're taking a month now, that's 20 business days. They increased it by 30. So
Yeah.
that's- they've still increased it by 10, 2 weeks. But I also think that they were already taking that anyway. And they were just saying it would take 65 business days. So I think that and it makes me wonder if they were already taking that before and now they're saying this is our new turnaround time. Will they now take longer? Will it actually take 125 business days?
That part I don't know. I'm gonna speculate and say probably no. A couple reasons for that. They tend to overestimate that stuff to give themselves a little wiggle room. Now that has not been the case recently, because they've been so busy. But the other thing that's changed is they have Florida online now, and that's new. That's only been up and running for a month. And we saw their capacity jump massively with Florida coming online. Like they had their first month where they basically did 2 million cards. They fell just
Right.
shy of that. And it seems like they're trending even higher this month. Pokemon seems to be slowing down ever so slightly, but that might get replaced with Topps basketball. Who knows? Um, and as the turnaround times get longer, I think less people are going to be willing to send in as well. So I could see them maybe kind of catching up just a little bit and start wiggling that down over the next quarter.
Hmm.
But we'll find out. I mean, we will find out. There's not a new. I think what will honestly help them is there is not a new Pokemon release until the end of January now. The new set came out about a week ago, and they just announced this week that there's not a new release until mid to end January, and that's been driving a ton of their business. Like that's why they're backed up, is from Pokemon, not sports cards.
One thing I did beat you to this week was the ComC rumor that they're shutting down or on the verge of shutting down, and you still got more views than I did. And yes, I checked this morning when I was looking. Uh, uh, ComC, so this all started with those back pages. Eric, very popular Twitter account. He's also a YouTuber, posted that he has on good authority that ComC is in a lot of financial trouble. They had just done a layoff that day, apparently, or the day before, and that they might not make it to or past Q2 of 2026. What do you make of this?
I need to preface, because people will kill me in the comments if I don't. They do sponsor my channel, so let me put that.
I love ComC.
Asterisk there.
I would take ComC as a sponsor as well, and I don't take very many sponsors. If I had an opening, I would take them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I love the platform. I absolutely. I sell a lot of low end stuff, like the stuff I don't want to deal with on that platform. Um, yes, they had layoffs, and I think you could kind of put the math together there of, oh, some people got laid off this morning, and then a few hours later some bad news about ComC comes out that maybe some disgruntled employees weren't real happy and
Right.
were kind of ranting and raving about it. I'll repeat what I said in my video. Are things sunshine and kittens over there? I don't know, but probably not. I'm sure that it's not like perfect, but what business is? Are the padlocks going on the doors next week? No, I don't. I don't believe that at all. Um, there's too many. Either Fanatics or eBay would swoop in if it ever got that bad. Like, let's
Right.
just be
Yes.
honest here. If it ever got to the point where ComC on its own couldn't sustain, someone would swoop in and grab that in a heartbeat. And
It's
they have
too
relationships
valuable.
with both those entities. So
Yeah, it's too valuable of a property. It hasn't really been updated much in the past few years and probably needs to be. But there are millions of cards on there, and a lot of people love it and use it every single day. So it would surprise me greatly if they actually just flat out went out of business.
yeah, and I'm sure, I'm not an accountant. I don't know their books. What they are doing is super manual. Like, it's
Hmm.
a lot of labor intensive stuff. So I am sure that their costs are high. I think they just moved into a new building as well. But at the same time, like you said, they have a ton of transactions that happen. I believe they've over the last few months had like some of their best months ever in regards to sales numbers. But I just think that there's a heavy human cost as well. So I think some of the layoffs are them just kind of cleaning things up and helping clean up the books. And I don't, this is just me speculating. They have not told me anything. And some of it might be that, hey, we need to cut costs a little bit here. Like
Yeah,
most business, I mean, how many businesses haven't had layoffs in the last 3 months?
right.
But like I said, too, you got to make your own decisions. Where there's smoke, maybe there's a little bit of fire. If you have a ton of stuff tied up on there, sit back, evaluate how bad certain things would hurt you as an individual user. Everyone's different, and make a decision that works best for you. I can say I'm not changing my patterns at all. I'm actually getting ready to send them more stuff probably in the next week or so. So
They just received almost 200 cards of mine in the mail yesterday.
yeah, I'll
So
probably be shipping them 100 within the next week. I keep getting behind on putting the box together to send out.
yeah. So the former biggest competitor to PSA was Beckett. And this week, help me understand what this announcement was, because it looked like Beckett was announcing that they're not taking submissions. Initially, when we first saw it on Twitter, it said Beckett, we are no longer taking Beckett submissions. But it turned out to just be a group submitter. Has Beckett shut off all group submissions or just that one group
No,
submitter?
it's all group submitters. Which, to be
Why?
fair, I don't know that how many they have that are huge. It's not like PSA where PSA gets massive amounts of group submissions. I mean, I think Beckett gets a good chunk of their percentage from group submitters, but the amount of like super large ones, I don't think compare to the PSA ones. But yes, it is all Beckett group submitters.
Why?
So from what I could piece together, it does sound like the reasoning that PC Sports Cards was commenting on in the, because people were asking them on that Twitter post or Instagram post, like what the hell's going on over there, and their PC Sports Cards' response was Beckett is telling us they are too busy and they're trying to get ahead of things. And from everything that I could piece together, talking to folks, that actually seems to be fairly legitimate. That they are getting a lot of submission volume, mostly TCG,
Hmm.
and they're trying to kind of keep their head above water and not have a repeat of COVID where they got completely buried. 'Cause
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think people realize, and I don't know the exact numbers, but Beckett's grading team is not that big. So you could kind of piece together, all right, we're getting a lot of submissions. We're starting to get behind. We're coming into the holidays. People are going to be off more, all these little things, all these little paper cuts kind of start to build up. So you could kind of piece together the scenario where they're like, all right, we need to like slow things down before we get completely buried and we're an absolute mess like we were before, because they caught a ton of hell like a lot of the grading companies did during COVID for doing nothing.
Yeah. So I don't understand how Beckett can go from where they were, say, 90 days ago, where submissions were declining, they were flat for a long, long time, and there doesn't appear to be much promotion of them outside of the one thing that got a fair amount of publicity, which was same value or no matter the value, no upcharges, right? That one ad that kind of, I think even Jeff Wilson pointed it out. So how did they go from where they were a few months ago to now being unable to handle group submissions?
Well, to be fair, we don't actually know their submission volume. We see what they grade every month.
Right.
So their numbers have basically stayed relatively the same ish, give or take, I don't know, maybe 10%. So we're not seeing how much is building up on the back end. I know if you dig around on social, you could see people complaining more about turnaround times getting longer and things taking longer to move through the system and like orders getting dropped off and it taking longer to get them back like over the last couple of months. So if you kind of piece things together through the weeds, you could kind of see it. And part of it could be, hey, they had that and just some natural like people getting annoyed with PSA for how long they're taking and saying, all right, screw it. I want to get this graded. I'm not waiting 95 business days for PSA. I'll send it over to Beckett. And they could have picked up some extra volume from that. But once again, I think TCG seems to be the driver of everything right now in the grading world.
So what is Beckett's turnaround time? Do you know their standard turnaround time?
I don't off the top of my head. It's because the way that they structure their stuff is a little bit different.
Yeah. So I guess if they have been seeing increased turnaround times for months, it sounds like, based on Twitter and other things, and they're still grading the same number of cards, are they just not increasing their capacity?
I think it's very difficult for them to do that. I mean, I think Beckett's hands are tied in a lot of different ways, both financially and just finding graders. I mean, I think the one thing that we could take away from the last couple of years is how hard it is actually to find graders to the point where PSA bought SGC to get their grading team, basically. Like they went that far to get graders. So I don't think finding graders is as easy as people think. I know there's this narrative of, well, we'll just get these guys off the street from McDonald's and have them start grading cards. Like, that doesn't actually happen. There is a pretty in-depth process for most of these places.
All right. So you mentioned PSA or collectors buying SGC. Let's play the yes or no game. Does the SGC brand still exist 2 years from now?
No, I said that the night that it happened. I recently went back and looked because I was curious to see. I did a live stream the night that news broke. I'll tell you a funny story about that. The and on the basically like in the opening monologue of the live stream, or at some point, I basically was like, they're done. Like right from the get, they're done. Like they're at some point in time in the I wasn't saying like next month or anything, but like the long-term prospects of SGC is they're gonna be toast.
So you don't even think collectors will keep the brand, even though they've already changed it drastically. The turnaround time is up, customer service is nearly non-existent. The two things that SGC was best known for, the brand still exists now, and you can still submit to this boutique grader, as they call it. Was that on your channel, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good get. Um,
Yeah, I had that video up. I think the Peter announcement came out at, I don't know, let's say 10 a.m. and my video was live at 10:01.
yeah, nice. So why do you think they're gonna just shut it off? Kill
I
it
don't think they
altogether?
I don't think they need it. Like why do they need the brand? They make more money grading a card in a PSA slab than they do an SGC slab.
Right, but don't you think they'll entirely lose a large portion of the vintage sports card hobby?
Where else are
The
they going to grade with?
CGC,
CGC has, though they have Andy, who's one of the better vintage graders out there.
right?
CGC gets not a ton of respect in sports, and they get even less respect in vintage.
Hmm. I just think that if they kill off SGC, that really upsets a lot of long time, big time vintage collectors.
I just don't
I
know
might
that
be
they
mistaken.
care. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't know that they care. I think it's what when I interviewed Ryan when the boutique grading thing came out. I think it's honestly what they said in that video. What he said in that video was basically the customers are going to determine what happens with SGC. Like PSA has put them to where, or collectors has put them to where they're going to put them. Smaller team, smaller everything, boutique. If submission volume continues and people still want to use them under those circumstances, then as long as they stay in the green, the vibe that I got is that they will exist. But they're not going to get specials anymore. You're not going to see them at shows anymore. You know, they're not going to get a ton of support or love from Papa Collectors Universe. So if they can sit there and exist and be profitable, then they might still continue to chug along. But I've seen stuff recently where their turnaround times are getting longer. Like you said, their customer service isn't as great as it used to be. I've seen more people complaining about their grading returns from them in regards to the grades that they're getting back
Yep.
being a little bit more inaccurate or not, as good as they used to be. And we don't know. We know that they pulled a bunch of graders, but we don't know which ones did they pull. Did they pull the best ones? Did they pull the newest ones? Are the
Yeah.
guys that were their vintage ace graders still grading over there, or are they grading in red, white, and blue labels instead of tuxes?
Right. Yeah. It's super interesting topic and one that I'm following closely. Another thing you did a video on this week that I haven't watched, and I actually know nothing about the Topps Chrome NBA release. What happened? Your video made it seem like it's been a disaster, or at least the title and the thumbnail, which I again I have not watched. Walk me through what happened with that.
Tops is not good at distribution and direct to consumer sales on hot releases. Like it's just their website is kind of very bot prone, I think. So the bots could eat on these super hot releases. And it's not a customer friendly experience at all. Like you log on, the boxes went on sale at noon. I was on right at noon, clicked add to cart, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's in stock. We're putting you in a virtual line. And it
Yeah.
said, you'll check out in 4 minutes. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. All right, do. You sit there and it does its thing. And then you get out of line and it goes, oh, it's sold out.
Hmm.
It's just not like, and they control the supply. So they could choose to sell more on release if they want to, direct to consumer, and they could put some safeguards in place in regards to cutting back on bots just getting in there and feasting on everything. So it's just not a good consumer experience. Like, and I'm setting the price aside. The price is what it is. People
Right.
are real pissed off about the price, and I get it. But it immediately is selling for $300 more than what it was selling for on release. So clearly the price was not right. It was too low based off secondary market movements after the fact. Now, part of that
Hmm.
is Topps plays games, and there's the whole breaker aspect of it all. But it was clearly not priced correctly. They could have priced it a little bit higher, so it sold out instantly. And I think that's part of their game is they put out a little bit of supply into the market, get the FOMO running. It sells out in a couple of minutes, and then the secondary market price jumps. They could be like, look, guys, see, we offered it for this, and now it's selling for this. And then they use secondary market pricing on their re-ups to stores, later on down the line. So shops get their first wave at allocated price, the way that I understand it, which is usually pretty close to the pre-order price. And then on their re-up, when they want to reorder more, like a couple of weeks later, they get charged way closer to market price. So the
Yeah.
whole thing is just a mess, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I love Topps Chrome. When the Topps flagship came out, was that September, maybe October? I don't remember. Uh, I considered buying a hobby box. I thought $110 was too high, but I was also like, well, it's the first release in 16 years. Maybe I'll just buy one hobby box and get that itch out of the way. And I was online. I was sitting there waiting, added one to cart, and then boom, sold out in under a minute, which is crazy. But I also know back in the pandemic, late 2020, early 2021, I was watching a YouTuber of a young guy, he's a teenager, who had built a bot or multiple bots that would go out to various retail sites like Target and Walmart, etc., and just look for active wax listings for retail at normal retail prices, and then it would just buy them up. And so he would get hundreds of boxes every week because he had bots that were searching for it and buying them all up. And I wonder how much of that is actually out there. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have. I don't know the botting game of it all, but it, from the way I understand it, it's crazy the way that those things work. But I've never looked into it. Like I know people use them for Pokemon releases all the time.
Hmm.
So
Last topic. J- Dr. Beckett, uh,
the
the
never
whole
ending story. The
the
never
whole
ending
shebang.
story.
And I don't want to get too in depth here, but he went on Jeff Wilson this week And I don't feel like he's doing himself any favors because, and I'm going to interview him in, I don't know, an hour and a half or so and ask him some questions. But I feel like every time he says the right thing, which is shill bidding is always bad, never bid on your items or your friends or associates' items, he always adds a but and then adds some qualifiers to that, which is creating some problems for him. What is your take on the whole thing?
There's a playbook for this stuff. If you screw up in the hobby, apologize and then don't say anything for a week, and everyone will forget about it.
Yeah.
And in this case, around this whole situation, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. It
Yeah.
will not die. And then it's so funny that that story kind of ran into the Snype thing. So now it's
Right.
kind of all resurrected again because the first story never really went away. Like the playbook is right there, guys. If you
Yeah.
mess up, just come out and say, "Hey guys, I screwed up. My bad." Don't say anything for like 72 hours and wait for one of the other companies to do something stupid, and then you're off the hook.
Yeah.
Like we've seen this play out 1,000 times before.
Yeah.
And of all things, this week alone, no one would remember anything that happened the previous week because as we've just ran through, there's been 4 or 5 big things, and there's like another half a dozen any other week things that would be pretty big news that aren't even getting talked about because of everything else that's gone on in the last 7 days.
Yeah. You had to do a little damage control because of the whole Beckett and Patrick Ryan podcast too. You deleted a video, and I talked about this on my channel, and you kind of mentioned it very briefly on your Sunday morning video. Was that 2 weeks ago now?
I think so, yeah.
So talk a little bit about deleting a video and under what circumstances you would do that. And I'll give my opinion, which I already shared in my Sunday video a couple weeks ago too.
Yeah. So I talked about it again then later in the week because I felt like I needed to give a little bit more clarity on it. Essentially, a legal representative for Patrick Ryan reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we have some issues with the video." And to quote Star Wars, I wanted to avoid some any imperial entanglements. So I decided to pull the video. That's the first video I've ever pulled from the channel. And as I talked about later in that week in another video, this is not my day job. This is supposed to be fun and entertaining,
Yeah.
and dealing with legal headaches, whether justified or not, I don't qualify as fun and entertaining. So when presented with the choices, I was like, I'm just gonna pull the video. And I knew the second that I did it, I was going to catch a ton of flack for it. Like I was prepared for that. That didn't make it any more fun, but I knew what was going to happen. I knew I was going to catch a ton of blowback for it. And I've also gotten a lot of support for it. A lot of people were like, listen, I get it. Like, I don't blame you. I 100% would have done the same thing. Both from commenters and other content creators have said the same. So I don't regret the decision at all. I would do it again if presented with the same type of situation. It is what it is. Like this, I'm not a media company. As I say in videos, I'm just a guy in a basement talking into a microphone that might be slightly better than the one that you have is. That's the only difference between me and most people that watch my channel.
Yeah. And you're not, I don't know how much you make from YouTube, but it's not very much money. And trying to defend yourself against somebody like Patrick Ryan, who would would be happy to spend $250,000 to take down a little YouTuber, I would do the same thing. And I made that clear in my Sunday video. It's easy for me to say, you're crazy. I can't believe you did that. You're weak. But ultimately, that's not true. I would have done the very same thing. If I got a call from a wealthy person's representative saying whatever they said, I would be fearful that it's all of a sudden going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars to defend a video that I made $40 from, maybe.
Yeah,
And
I think the YouTube revenue on that video was like $45.
right. So it's just not worth it. And so anybody who's saying, I can't believe you did that, you just don't understand what we do. We're here for fun. We're here to, this is an extension of our hobby. And I would be happy to ask you difficult questions about it if I felt like you had done something wrong or you shouldn't have done it. But in this case, I'm like, nope, I totally get it.
Yeah. And listen, YouTube has ended up turning into a pretty decent side hustle for me. So I'm not going to
Sure.
sit here and be like, I make no money off of this. I've bought a lot of the things in my collection with money that I've made off of content. I've never been shy about that, but it's also not how I pay my electric bill by any means.
Yeah.
So, the second, like I said, in the second that this stops becoming fun is the second that I start reevaluating why am I doing this? Because
Yeah.
this is not how I put food on the table. This is not how I keep my lights on. I have a day job. Like
Right.
and that's a blessing and a curse. Sure, would I love to say that I'm a full-time YouTuber and not have like a real job and just make content? Like that would be awesome. But at the same time, I don't know that I would want to deal with the stress of being a full-time content creator. Like I could be very choosy on who I take with sponsors because it's just kind of extra money that I'm going to use to blow on cards. I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about, oh, if I don't want to post a video tomorrow. I mean, usually I do, but if I don't, I can just be like, all right, no, I'm just not doing one for tomorrow. And there's been some days where I've just been like, nah, I'm not feeling it, or I'm not going to force one to force one. I mean, usually, as you're well aware, the hobby is very giving when it comes to news topics and things to discuss. It's not
Yeah.
hard in
Yeah.
some days to make one, but if I
Yeah.
feel the need to force it, I'm not going to just record something just to talk into a microphone that day. I have no obligation to do so because it's not how I pay, my general day to day. It's not how I'm putting gas in my car.
Right. Yeah, I recorded a video yesterday. It was like 6-minute video, and I just never got around to editing it because I was busy and just didn't feel like it. And if it were my day job, that would be a problem, and that would create stresses that wouldn't make this fun for me. And so I've very intentionally kept it. If I don't feel like doing a video, I'm not going to do a video. I'm not going to push myself to do something that doesn't add joy to what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I take it extremely seriously. When I'm talking about stuff, like I do try to double source things as much as I possibly
Sure.
can, especially if it's something crazy. Like I am, at the point where I am, I'm lucky enough now where I have contacts at some of the companies that I could reach out to directly and be like, hey, what is going on with this? Or what
Right.
can you give me background on this? Can you confirm this? Like, and that's great. And listen, some days does it feel like work? Yeah, absolutely. But not to the point where I'm, pounding my head against the desk.
Right. I think you and I both had that eBay was buying Golden before the news went out, but neither of us released the info. I think you alluded to it on Twitter. I believe it was you. And I alluded to it on Twitter that there was
Yeah.
something happening with collectors and Golden, and I knew. So I had a very, very reliable source who had also told me that collectors was buying SGC before that February 29th purchase date, but I couldn't get that second source to confirm it. And so even though I knew it was right, I just didn't release it. I didn't need eBay suing me, quite frankly, for something that I wasn't 100% sure on. I was 95% sure, and that just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize some of that stuff. Like there is, and I'll get like to your point. Like I'll drop little hints on things here and there when like there's been plenty of things that I have known that I could have made a video on, but to your point, you don't know it 100%, and all it takes is that one where you throw it out there and you're like, guys, this is happening. It's going to be crazy. And then it doesn't actually happen. And then you look like the idiot. Like,
Right.
remove the legal ramifications to the side, even if and there might not be any, but just the credibility hit that you would take if you're like, oh, this company is buying this company or this is happening. And then it doesn't, kills your credibility. And the credibility is, that's your currency. Like, that's your lifeblood.
Yeah. So the person who told me about uh, Golden being purchased by eBay asked me a couple days later, "Why haven't you run with this? Why haven't you done a video?" And I said, "I have to confirm it with somebody else." And he said, "But I'm right." And I said, "Yes, but I always run the risk of just being a useful idiot to somebody who wants to. They have an axe to grind with Golden, and so they want to put out this. Have somebody put out a video saying that collectors is buying Golden and reduce the value of Golden for some reason. I can't do that." And I think he was pretty upset about it, but I think he understood too.
Yeah, I was the same way, and I don't even remember back then how I found out about that. But I had it. I was like you. I was 95% sure. I was so sure to the point where I actually reached out to Ken and talked to Ken,
Me
and
too.
Ken was like, "No, it's not
Yes,
happening." And I'm
me
like,
too.
Ken, I'm pretty sure it's happening, but I'm gonna take your word for it that it's not. So
Yeah. I had a 40-minute conversation with Ken while I was, in my kitchen one day. He called me and, denied the and I think that at the time, he was very cautious with his words. He wasn't saying, "We are not being sold." He was
yeah,
saying,
it was
like,
the same thing with me too. It was
yeah,
very like if you read between the lines, you could see what was going on. But once again,
right.
I didn't have it. And it's not my I would rather be listen, it's fun to actually break a story. I've done it before and it does feel good. But I have positioned myself more as I am going to be the first one to react to the story than the one making the story.
Yeah,
Like I'll let Ben Burrows break the story and then I'll have the video up 10 minutes later talking about it.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't even know how Ken got my phone number because I just tweeted about it that day, like, there's smoke happening with Golden, and he called me, and, he knew somebody who knew my phone number somehow, and, that was the only time we've ever talked.
Yeah, we exchanged DMs on it. I reached out to him and we've actually talked before in DMs. I've never talked to him on the phone. But we've DM'd back and forth about some other stuff. And that's how that went down. The funny SGC story, I knew we were about to go live on Off Centered that night, like literally in 2 minutes. And I got 1000% confirmation that that was happening, that PSA was going to purchase SGC. But I was told basically I was embargoed essentially
Yeah,
on it. Like this, that's how a lot of this stuff works too, is that you'll find information out from various people, but they'll say, like, I'll tell you, but you can't do anything with it. So
yeah,
you're at least you're ready for the story.
yeah,
And I had it from a bunch of different places at that point, and then I'd finally gotten it from somewhere else, and that was like, this is 100% happening. And I literally find out as Dustin's like, all right, we're live on Off Centered. So I had to sit through the entire off-centered show with that knowledge in the back of my head that this is probably going to be one of the biggest hobby stories of the year is happening
yeah,
tomorrow morning.
yeah,
And then we literally end off-centered and Ravel tweets the news that SGC is being sold to Collectors Universe. And I was like, so then I ended up that was one of those cases where I was trying to record a video and the news kept changing so quickly, like during like I'm literally recording the video and more information is coming out. And I was just like, screw it. And I just was like, well, I'm just going live.
yeah.
And that's actually, I think that's one of my most viewed live streams ever on the channel.
Ah, well, I woke up the next morning, 5:30, and the news had broken because I was asleep before it broke, and the news
Yeah,
had
it broke at
broken.
like 10 or 11 p.m. that night because we literally just ended off centered.
Yeah.
And 3 minutes later, Ravel tweets.
And I immediately came downstairs to where I used to have my desk and read as much as I could about it and then put up a video. And that video, I think, had 30,000 views in a couple days, which that's a lot for me. I put out a second video that same day. It's the only time I've ever put out two videos in the same day. And that one got tens of thousands of views too. And that was just a crazy, I think it was Leap Day of 2024. Big, big day. Not,
Yeah.
yeah, Leap Day. Yeah. Well,
Probably the second
Neo.
biggest hobby story outside of Fanatics buying tops, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
from an mergers and acquisitions standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate you coming on. This was really good. I'm going to put you in my little Rolodex of people to bring on every once in a while in a rotation to talk about the week in news and what it all means.
Yeah, anytime. Great time.
I appreciate it. Anybody have any comments or questions? Drop them down below. Thanks again for watching and for coming on.